Hello, welcome to English 911. My name is Skyla. This last week, I've spent so much time reading your letters, and I'm just so happy that you could join me today as I share with you what I've found out and hopefully what will be new and interesting for you as well. Our first letter is from Sergey. Now, Sergey has a question that I actually asked my own teacher when I was in school. How do you tell when C should be like an S or when it should be like a K? Or the same with G. How do you tell when it should be like G, right? A hard G, or like a J? Let's just erase. There we go. Okay, you know, I asked my teacher the same thing, and what she told me is that the easiest way is if you have C or G, and after them you have E, I, or Y, it will be soft. So C, E, for example, let me think of a word. Circle, let's go with circle, C-I, right? We have it like an S, right? Because C-I, you have the Y, the I after the C. Or you have G, you can have G, E, you know, gem, or you have gym. So that's when they are soft. However, like everything in English, we have borrowed a couple of words, and so those are some of our exceptions. For example, words that are from German quite often, for example, girl, we have the hard G, or you have like proper names from Hebrew, such as Gideon. No, just a couple little exceptions that you'll have to memorize, but for the greater part, if there's an E, an I, or a Y after a C or after a G, it will be soft. It will sound like S and it will sound like J. Okay, so hopefully that's all understandable, and if not, just remember, write me back. I'm always ready and waiting to hear your questions. On to our next question, which is from Nadia. Okay, Nadia asks us, where should commas and periods go? Inside quotation marks or outside quotation marks? Okay, up until recently, there was a big discussion about this. Like, should you write it like this or should you write it like this? Okay, here's our line. I just can't write very straight. Okay, however, according to the Modern Language Association, which is a book including all of the rules for English language. It's a wonderful book. I used it all the time in university. You should write period or a comma, either one, and then quotation marks. There is one exception. For example, you are quoting something in an essay. You are writing, as Dr. Holmes said, you know, blah, 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 and then you go like this, and you want to put the page, like say it's from page 25 of the book, right? So you'll write Holmes, blah, blah, 25, parentheses, and then period. That's the only time you put the period outside of a quotation mark. Otherwise, you always put it inside. Period, comma, everything inside a quotation mark, okay? So remember, inside. And now on to our last question of today, which is from Roma. Now, Roma asks another interesting question. How much is a few? He says, I always learned that a few was 3 and a couple was 2. But people ask me for a few dollars and say they will return them in a couple of days. But they don't return the money in 2 days. Okay, so Roma, here's our problem with a few and a couple. Technically, a couple does mean 2. Technically, right? It's from our old use of, like, for example, 2 couple is what we would say about a man and woman getting married. We would call it that. Or you'd have a couple of cows, they're getting tied together. So here you have like putting 2 things together is coupling. However, you have the problem that the precise number now is vague. We don't say for sure that it means 2. In fact, if you read Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, it actually says that a couple is an indefinite small number, or a few. Lovely, right? Couple can also mean a few. So for example, when he says, I'll return it to you in a couple days, he means, well, in an indefinite amount of time, I will return the money to you. Okay, and now for a few. Okay, a few, if you have a few or some few, it actually means the opposite of none at all. So when he asks you for some money or a few dollars, he means the opposite of none at all. So something. Can you lend me something, right? However, if you just have few without a or without some, it means actually the opposite of many, okay? So let's remember that, okay? If there's no some or no a, it means the opposite of many. Whereas if you have a few, here, a few or some few, it means the opposite of none at all, okay? So you can always have it means a little, or the opposite of many, also a little. It basically means a little. So here you have a little money. Can you lend me a little money? But again, there's no actual definite answer because couple and a few are both indefinite amounts. We use them to mean a couple, you know, maybe 3, maybe 4. We just don't want to say, I'll return their money to you in, well, you know, maybe 4 days, maybe 7, maybe 20. We just say, I'll return it in a couple of days, okay? It makes us feel better. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm hoping to see you in a couple days. Okay, see you next time. Goodbye. Thank you.